Welcome to the Fall to Grace podcast, a show dedicated to those who have stumbled, struggled, failed, and fallen, perhaps more than once. Our message offers encouragement, hope, and connection to turn your personal shame and suffering from a fall to grace. Thank you for joining us. We hope you will enjoy today's episode.
All right. Good morning, everybody. This is the Fall to Grace podcast. I'm Kevin Kirkland, your host. I'm grateful that you're joining me this morning. I believe this episode is going to come out in about mid-January. So you've had some time to make your New Year's resolutions if you've done so, or created some ideas for yourself and some things that you want to do to move forward. I think that's great. As I said in a previous podcast, I'm not really one to set New Year's resolutions, but I try to establish things that I'm going to use as my intentions going forward. I know that's sort of, splitting hairs, but I think you get the idea. Again, grateful that you're joining me, and I hope that you will like and share and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I especially want to encourage you to continue to share these episodes with people you might know that could benefit from an encouraging message to move forward, especially through difficult or challenging times. I look forward to recording these when I come into the recording studio. My last episode ended with quite a bit of emotion. As I've said many times before, I don't apologize for the emotion. I do apologize a little bit for the emotionality and you're getting, peering behind the curtain a little bit of how sometimes very tender and sensitive I can be when talking about sacred things or important ideas. Today is not going to be that kind of episode. Today is going to be a little bit more lighthearted, and since it's actually a good thing for me because I record more than one episode at a time. And I just completed recording the previous episode. And so I had to take a little break, a little moment to kind of regather my wits and my thoughts and my feelings before recording this episode. But it is an interesting experience to be recording these episodes. And if I do have a very tender moment or, emotional moment, it does take me a little time to recover. Luckily for you, you've had a week. I've had a few minutes, so bear with me. But more importantly than really anything else, I just want to express my gratitude to all of you who are listening, and especially to those of you who are sharing this podcast with others. And I'm very grateful for those of you that are finding some hope and finding these messages to be of value in your life. Recently, I received a very lovely and very loving comment and reply from one of my cousins who is a regular listener, and I'm grateful to her and for her loving kindness and her support. I love receiving messages like that. It means a lot to me, and I hope that each of you that are listening are getting the encouragement you need and the love that you need from your circle of friends and loved ones. But really and truly, I hope that you will ponder and consider who you might be able to share these messages with, who may benefit and find some hope and some light and some encouragement to continue to move forward, and if necessary, to go back and correct, and then move forward with a lighter burden, with lighter feet. Sometimes when I'm playing pickleball, I have to remind myself that, with lighter feet, I'm able to move quicker and faster and more efficiently. So sometimes lightening ourselves by unburdening ourselves is a good thing. So with that said, I want to talk a little bit today about some things that I think will be of value in our ongoing process, throughout this year and the coming months, etc. Now, I ran across a story about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish football team. I've never been a fan of Notre Dame. I grew up a USC fan, so if you're a USC fan, You can't be a fan of Notre Dame. As I'm sitting here, I'm remembering the great battles between Notre Dame and USC football teams. And if you were a Notre Dame fan, I just want to remind you again of the Anthony Davis, touchdown spree that he went on to come back from like 24-6 and ended up winning the game 55-24. So if you are a Notre Dame football fan, I want to remind you of that game, if nothing else. Sorry about that. But anyways, I ran across a story about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish football team, and one of the ways that Notre Dame recruited players to come to Notre Dame and how they encouraged them to come. And they teach this idea of 4 for 40. They are taught that if they give 4 years to the school and to the football team, then for the next 40 years, their experience will be enhanced and their life will be enhanced from having been there at Notre Dame for 4 years. So it's 4 for 40. You give us 4 years, and the experience and the learning and all the benefits that you'll gather from having been here will serve you the rest of your life. You're going to trade 4 for 40. Well, interestingly enough, I find the number 40 keeps showing up in lots of different places, and so I thought I might share some of those with you, and then at the end have a purpose to all of this. But I do want to be a little bit more lighthearted today. As I thought about the 4 for 40, it dawned on me how often the number 40, comes up in Scripture and in other places in our life. Throughout our culture, the number 40 keeps popping up. And I would like to kind of, review some of those. I found, as I looked up the number 40, I found that 40 is the only word, it's the only number in the English language that the word is in alphabetical order. So 40 is the only word in number that is in the English language where the letters appear in alphabetical order. I thought that was an interesting fact. 40 below also is the only temperature that is the same in both Fahrenheit and Celsius. Now, we're very familiar with Fahrenheit, and if you've lived abroad for any period of time, you might be somewhat comfortable with Celsius and how those things compare. There's a mathematical formula that you can use to sort of guesstimate or estimate or calculate, what Celsius is in relation to Fahrenheit. But interestingly enough, at 40 below, the temperature in both Fahrenheit and Celsius is the same. Okay. When the bubonic plague hit centuries ago, ships were isolated in the harbor before passengers could go ashore. The Italian word for 40 is quaranta, which is the root word for the word quarantine. So they're quarantined, or they were set aside or isolated on the ship for 40 days, and that's where the word quarantine comes from. So we've, those of us that have just recently gone through COVID, we certainly are familiar with quarantine, etc. 40 weeks, I thought this was interesting also. 40 weeks is the actual time of gestation for human babies. It's not 9 months, it's 40 weeks, which I thought that was interesting. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have heard of the spray product known as WD-40. Well, it got its name because it took chemists 40 attempts to develop the spray that we know as WD-40, and WD stands for water displacement. So WD-40, or water displacement 40, was named because it took chemists 40 attempts to develop it. We know that Alibaba clashed with 40 thieves. The perfect nap, which I am a pro at. If there was an Olympic event for napping, I could enter, even at my advanced age. As I get older, the better I get at it. The perfect nap is 40 winks. 40 days seems to symbolically mean a long time, or until completion, or a time for testing. Now you think about Noah. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Moses, and there's lots of ways that 40 and the story of Moses, kind of come into play, but we know that Moses and the children of Israel wandered in the desert for 40 years. Jesus just prior to initiating his mortal ministry, fasted for 40 days. Interestingly enough, the typical American work week is 40 hours. And if you're my age, you might remember, and still, if you don't have to be my age quite, but for the longest time, there was the American Top 40. So, Casey Kasem or Rick Dees, if you're from Southern California, the American Top 40, the top 40 hits, from pop music. I thought that was interesting that they would settle on 40 for some reason. But in my personal case, looking at my stellar physique here, the Roman numeral for 40 is XL, which also happens to be my pant size and my shirt size, and at least the number of pounds I need to lose. So XL means is 40. That's me, baby. So, but interestingly enough, as I thought about the 4 for 40 or 4 by 40. There's another one I just now thought of, the 4x4 at In-N-Out. That's probably how I gained the 40 additional pounds I'm carrying around. But anyways, the 4 for 40 concept that the Notre Dame football team used to enhance or to encourage the players to come, to recruit the players to come to Notre Dame. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that 4 for 40. Because I think it has application to a day-to-day thing that I want to share with you. And it's something that I've just started. So I'm going to, like I said before, my accountability to you, my audience, is sort of in real time. I'm experimenting with myself on so many levels: emotional health, physical health, so many ways. And so you get to see this process sort of in real time. So I want to introduce to myself, I have introduced to myself, and so I want to introduce to some of you as you, begin your new year, so to speak, this idea of 4 for 40. And I want you to think about it like this. I want you to think about 4 things. Now, remember the quote that I used several episodes ago where I said, I quoted Jordan Peterson in which he said, sit on the edge of your bed or, self-evaluate and think of the stupid things that you continue to do that, are basically ruining your life, that if you changed could enhance your life. So what I'm asking you to do, and what I've asked myself to do, is, choose 4 things that you can change. Now, when I say 4 things that you can change, let me be, clear about that. It doesn't have to be 4 things that you add. It can be, 1 thing that you choose to do and 3 things that you stop doing, or it could be 2 and 2, or it can be just 4 things I'm going to do or 4 things I'm going to stop doing. So it can be any combination of those 4 things, okay? And then you're going to do those for 40 days. Now, anyone can do it for 40 days. I can do it for 40 days. And let me talk about, just for a second, how fast 40 days goes. 40 days ago from today was about December 1st. Well, how fast did that go for you? The holidays, busy time, yes, school, vacations or whatever. That time goes by in a flash. 40 days. We all can do something different or new to enhance our day or change our life for 40 days. And then you try it for 40-day experiment, then you can reevaluate, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Do those things for 40 days. Now, in my last episode, I talked about, writing. And so keep a little journal, this is what I'm doing at least. I'm writing notes to myself. Now I'm symbolically writing it on my hand, but what I do is when I get home, if I have an idea that I want to remind myself every day, I'll take a marker and I'll write on the mirror of my bathroom, so that every morning when I wake up, I'll have notes that I've written to myself on the mirror, so I won't forget. And like I said before, I used to have a really good memory. Now I'm way more forgetful. So it helps keep me from forgetting things that I want to remember to do that are important to me, that are of a priority. And so in my bathroom, the front main mirror, I write ideas to myself or reminders to myself, don't forget to do this, or remember to do that. And then on the side mirror, which is my medicine cabinet, I will often write ideas for podcast episodes. So I'm kind of just changing those. But the stuff that I put in front of me on the main mirror, I'll write down in the corner or maybe right in front of myself if it's something I don't want to forget. A big idea, something I want to make sure I don't forget to do today. Okay. So choose 4 things that you can do, and only you know. Just like Jordan Peterson said, you know what things that you're continuing to do that, it could be incredibly stupid or just, not as useful as it can be. Choose 4 things to either add or eliminate that will enhance your life, okay? And they can be whatever you want it to be. And at the end of the 40 days, you can choose to do 4 new things. You can continue you can continue on, or you can add 1, subtract 1, whatever. You're only going to do this for 40 days. And then if after those 40 days, this is going to be helpful and you find value in doing it, then you can continue those same 40. But if not, make a change. You don't have to. This is not set in marble. This is for you to benefit from. It's not a program of my design. This is not like the Fall to Grace podcast, 4x40 or 4 for 40, program. That's not what this is. These are suggestions. Although I did create a 4 for 40 Instagram page, which is, the framework's there. I haven't really posted anything yet, but I intend on posting progress as I make it. I want to have an ongoing update on, okay, I've tried this or I've tried that, and this has been my progress. And you can keep track of that, yourself, however you want. Like I said, it's not a design program. This is something for you to do however you want. Now, ask yourself, you can do anything for 40 days, right? You can go without something for 40 days. Can you go without, whatever it might be? I can go 40 days without fill in your blank. Or I need to, if something that if I added to my day would really make a big difference, fill that in. Now, one of my inspirations is my son, Benjamin. It wasn't that long ago that he was out of shape, was getting very large, and, wasn't his best by any stretch of the imagination. But he, over the last, year or so, he's been working out very diligently, and he's lost a lot of weight. He's in really good shape. And this morning he posted a photo of himself on his Instagram page, which is Ben in the Gateway, by the way. He posted on his Instagram page a photo of himself, and it says, I won't show you the photo, but it's basically a photo of himself in the mirror standing behind some dumbbells, and it says, almost ripped, cutting cookies and chips. I don't want Doritos. You want Doritos. and when I read that, I'm thinking, yeah, Doritos sounds good. I'd like to have a cookie and some Doritos right now. But so I love that he has worked so hard to eliminate some things that he knows are not good for him, and he's exercising and taking good care of himself, his physical health, and he's made tremendous progress, and it's very inspiring for me. Now, he's been doing it for a long time, but the question is, you can do anything for 40 days, right? maybe easier said than done. It's not that long. By the time you see this episode, it would, like I said, it would have already been 40 days since December 1st. So at the end of the 40 days, and you do it 4 times. So my suggestion is for 4 different episodes of 40 days. So you go for 40 days, then you reevaluate. Then you go for 40 days, and then you reevaluate. Then 40 days, and then 40 days more, and you reevaluate at the end of those. By the end of those 4 40-day sessions, you're going to be almost halfway through the year by now. So how much difference can be made in 5-6 months? Quite a bit. And then you get to reevaluate. I'm certainly going. I'm going to do this. I'm putting this out there to hold myself accountable to do the things that I'm talking about. I can't ask you to do it if I'm not willing to do it, right? That wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be right. So I'm laying my own self out on the altar of this sacrificial altar, so to speak. Okay. So then at the middle of June, you take time to reevaluate, consider the differences, and then do another 4 for 40 sessions. And by that time, you're going to be at the end of the year. Now, what's interesting about that is at the end of the year, you may have changed 4 significant things permanently. Think about what 4 things you would really like to have changed in your life permanently. They could be really amazing. They could be amazing things. Or, mathematically, you could have taken as many as 32 chances to try something new, some new ideas, something new for yourself. And perhaps you will notice tremendous changes in your well-being, be it spiritual or physical or emotional or financial or whatever. But think about that. What 4 things, if they were significantly different between now and the end of the year, and you're only doing it 40 days at a time. So, you don't have to think, okay, I need to do this every single day for a year. That's daunting. That's difficult. 40 days and reevaluate. Okay. So now you ask, okay, Kevin, big talker. What 4 things are you going to do that will perhaps make the most significant change in your life? Now, I don't know if these will make the most significant change in my life, but these are things that I believe will make a very significant change in my life. And so I'm putting myself out here. I'm exposing my own weaknesses here for a minute. And that's okay. I've been doing that since I started the podcast. Okay. Number 1, eliminate sugar from my diet. Now, as my son Ben said, almost ripped, cutting out cookies and chips. I don't want Doritos. You want Doritos. Well, sugar is kind of my go-to, whether it be cookies or ice cream or whatever it might be. I have a tremendous sweet tooth. And for the longest time, I thought, okay, well, and I would have a bowl of ice cream before I went to bed many years of my life because I love that. And then I switched. I thought, okay, well, ice cream is not very good for me, so I'm going to switch it to cereal. I'll have a bowl of cereal. So, I may have started with shredded wheat, and then I ended with Captain Crunch. So, let's be real. So, I need to eliminate sugar from my diet in whatever ways I possibly can and try to fight off my tremendous sweet tooth. So that's number 1. Number 2, for me personally, I don't want to look at any image that could be construed as inappropriate. I don't want to look at anything of a sexual nature. I don't want to look at anything that's of a modest nature. I want to reset my mind to accept what I think is okay. Now, in our culture, it's very difficult to avoid images like this. Because if you're on social media at all, and I'm not on a lot, but I'm on, and those images are there. Everywhere I go, images are there. It may be a living person who's dressed immodestly, and I need to train myself and encourage myself to not allow my gaze to linger. I can't allow myself to linger in things that are not healthy for me, whether that be immodesty, or also it could be something else. For you, it might be something else. It doesn't have to be that. But do you linger too long in anger or contention? Do you linger too long with whatever your own personal vice is? Alcohol, drugs? It could be so many things. I don't need to delineate them all. But for me, for my long-term perspective and if I'm thinking celestial, as I mentioned in my previous episode, if I want to think of a long-term, to me, that would be one of the best things I could do for myself, is to not allow myself to linger on things that are inappropriate. I know what those things are, and hopefully my perception will perfect as it goes. I would love for my perception to be perfected in the things that I allow my mind to linger on or my heart to linger on. I would love for my perception to be perfected and refined. Okay, next. I have, for many, many years of my life, I have been a student of scripture, literature, history, some philosophy, etc. I've often studied the scriptures. I've spent many, many hours, scouring over every verse of scripture. I've always studied, but I'm going to do something this year that I haven't done since before my arrest, actually. Just before that, the church started to do kind of a Come Follow Me, the Come Follow Me program. And since my release, I have not followed along with the church's Come Follow Me curriculum. Now, it doesn't mean I haven't studied. I've studied a lot. But I've been kind of doing it on my own, kind of feeling separate, kind of feeling not part of the mainstream culture of the church. And so this is something that I'm going to do this year that I haven't done before. This year, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as a church, is studying the curriculum, the Book of Mormon. So I'm going to do that. So that's going to be a course of study for me this year that I've already started, as maybe many of you, if not all of you, have. And so not that studying is new, it's that I'm going to study along with others that I know are studying also, and then we can have ongoing conversation. I think that's very valuable. And the fourth thing I'm going to share with you that I'm going to do, that it hasn't been part of my practice. It hasn't been part of my practice the way it's going to be for the next 40 days. I want to start a practice of praying morning and night. So now, if you're not a prayerful person, that's not the point. It might be meditation. It might be just finding a place where it's peaceful and quiet for you, where you can find some solace and you can separate yourself from the world. For me, I want to be prayerful morning and night. Now, in complete honesty, I am and I have always been the kind of person that has a perpetual, ongoing conversation with my Heavenly Father all day. So I sort of feel like I'm praying all the time. But I have not kept the habit necessarily as well as I should and would like to of praying on my knees at my bedside morning and night. Now, I used to do that a lot, and I certainly did it while I was incarcerated. But since I've been out, I've sort of gotten a little lazy about that. And that's not good. I'm not proud of it. I need to fix it. So it's not just being prayerful. I want to pray morning and night on my knees by my bedside every morning and every night. I have fallen into lazy habits, and this ought not to be. So those are my four. To refine my perception, perfect my perception, and to not allow myself to linger on inappropriate images. Number 2, eliminate sugar from my diet. So those are 2 things I'm going to stop doing. And the 2 things I'm going to add are I'm going to be proactively studying the scriptures, and I'm going to be proactively praying morning and night on my knees at my bedside. So I've removed 2 things, and I'm adding 2 things. So that's my 4. I look forward to the changes that will come into my life as I work on the next, on this 4 for 40. I hope that each of you listening will consider your own 4 for 40. You you have a wide and a myriad of choices, and I'm not here to say what you should do or shouldn't do. That's completely up to you. But I know, and I firmly believe that as I practice my 4 for 40 ideas that I've shared with you, and I promise that I will give you updates as we go in the next 40 days or so, we can return and report, so to speak. But I encourage you all, encouraging myself, to move forward in the 4 for 40 idea. Thank you for joining me today on today's episode of Fall to Grace Podcast, and we'll see you next time.